Good morning, legends. We are in here for our first lot of the cash cow videos for Supercoach, and we're going to be going through the hooking position, the halves, and also the 5'8". So with the halfback position, a lot of people are going right up top, and I can understand why you want to go there. The half is an absolutely incredible scoring position. Obviously with Cleary and Hines, and then a little bit under that. And then potentially, if you didn't have enough funds to be able to get to the double gun there, you could have to choose a couple of these guys. Obviously, the 5'8" position as well. Good chance you take a gun and a chibi, which is cool. And then the hooking position, again, if you don't have the funds because you spend it all in the halves, you spend it all in the fullback position, then you may have to go fairly cheap in the hooker cash cows. So really, it's all just based on the team makeup and obviously if there is value in the position. With the hooking position there, there's definitely some value there, obviously, with Brendan Hands or Lasik, one of those guys that looks like he's going to get the jump here for an 80-minute performance or close to it anyway. And in this first trial, Brendan Hands is named. So I'm making this video on Wednesday morning here. I think you're going to get it on Friday morning, which would be cool. So we'll have one of the trials out of the way and ready for the Indigenous v Māoris game there, which will be fun. So Brendan Hands, what you're looking at with him as a Supercoach option is an average of 49 in his 70-plus minute games last season, which is really, really cool. And obviously gets him, pretty well close to that 15 points of value, which is exactly what we are wanting there. And really for him, he didn't play that many games. It was his first year in the league. So you could also expect some improvement from him as well, you'd imagine. And, he actually really improved before he got dropped, which was wild. He was sticking on more tackles. He was getting involved in a bit more of the attack as well. But then they signed Joey Lasik, and then Lasik came in and took over and played very close to that 80 minutes there. He averaged 68 minutes per game last season. So that's probably the big one there. So as I said, Hands has been named in that first trial. Lasik is nowhere to be seen, and maybe he gets the good minutes in the secondary trial. And that's something interesting to think of as well, because do you want someone playing sort of pretty high minutes and then going and playing the next week in round one? Or do you want them to play good minutes in this one and then kind of, get into their work just in the training paddock and be ready for round one? Let me know your guys' thoughts on this one, but we obviously will find out more. And the big thing here, guys, is the 30K price difference. So make sure you stick Brendan Hands on in your hooking position, and then if it ends up being Joey Lasik, you can downgrade from there. But in terms of Lasik, he's obviously played for a lot longer than that of Brendan Hands in the NRL, and obviously overseas as well. But he had that 38 average in the 68 minutes last year. Strangely enough, that Hands has obviously been priced up compared to Lasik's average, just based on the fact that he had a lot more lower minute games where Lasik didn't. He had a lot of the higher minute games in that one there. So, and you see Jaden Brailey obviously been priced down as well based on his 40 average there as well. But so that 38 and 68 minutes is not ideal at all. And it's not something that I'm excited by, that's for sure. But he's obviously priced down. And he has the sort of 8 points value minimum, even, just in that, to be able to do well. And he did have no creative stats last season, whereas Brendan Hands did have a few of those creative stats in that average of 49, which, is good and bad because, if Lasik can just get a few of those creative stats, then he has more than that 8 points of value that he had last year with the 38. So he's priced at a 30, which, as I said, means he gets 8 points of value minimum. If he was to get 68 minutes, he could get 75, he could get the 80. So potentially a couple of minutes, bits of value on that as well. So, it was well above that in 2021 when he was playing in the NRL, which was very, very cool. So, I just think that there's room for growth. He didn't have any attacking stats last year. He did in 21. And, if he gets the spot, you slot him in. If you needed to go for two cheapies, could you be confident in playing either of these two guys? Look, I think if you can get anywhere close to a 50 from your sort of 16th, 17th best player, 15th, let's say, in the first few rounds, maybe that, these kind of guys are somewhere in that range, then I don't see it as a big issue. The only real issue you need to look at with the two Eels hookers is if they're going to be keeping their spot longer term. So, is there a chance that these guys have a spot for 2 or 3 weeks and then, Arthur pulls the rug under Brendan Hands again, or same with Lasik because things aren't going well, or, Hands I thought was playing pretty well. They signed Lasik and they slotted him straight in. So unless, Hands maybe was a bit injured, carrying something, and they're like, oh, we need some cover, and then,
Lasik came in and that was sort of the end of it. But yeah, very, very interesting. You're taking out 2 11-minute games last year, and he in that 2021, I believe, and he averaged 50 in that time, which is cool. So yeah, either one of those guys, just be aware of that. The switching risk, if you were to have one of these guys as your starting hooker, and just say you had Brailey or Danny Levi in there as your secondary guy, that just be aware that you might have to sort out that hooking position and go up if Brailey isn't getting the minutes and you did lose whoever the Eels hooker is. Or you might have to straight swap them to the other one. You know, there's something like that. Or obviously if Arthur goes against it and he does name 2 hookers in Hands and Lasik, then neither of them are going to be an option. So that's something to note there for sure. Jaden Brailey at 330k, the average of 40, so he's been priced down as well, about 8 points there. It sounds like he's going to be time sharing to begin the season. Brian Tui there with Newcastle, one of their reporters. Very, very good reporter at that and very trusted. I said they were timeshare to begin the season and could change from there. But yeah, he's still an option for sure at 330k, given he's priced right down at sort of 32 there. But really, how much of a value do we expect from him at that lower minutes? He's not a massive option if on that bench to begin, that's for sure. I think you can't touch him. But if he is starting, then it could be like a 50 minutes and that would be okay. Enough. Because, expecting is 0.65 to 0.7 ppm. 50 minutes wouldn't be enough to make big money at the beginning or even much. It's kind of a couple of points of value there. But if he was to increase those minutes and sort of Croston's playing a bit more through the middle, a bit more of a link man or something like that, then Brailey could be the guy. So that's my kind of issue with not spending money in the hooking position, is just that if things don't go well with him, then you are relying on a Hands or a Lasik. So that's where getting a Jeremy Marshall-King, a Grant or something like that could be awesome for your side. Danny Levi. In this trial on the weekend, he's been named at 18th man, and they're going with Woolford and Starling, which isn't great news unless Levi is going to be starting next week and they want to see how Woolford goes in that start position. So keep an eye on that. Obviously, Levi he was the starter at the beginning of last year. So if he was to start, expect anywhere between 30 to 40 points from him. He's done that in his starts. He did that at the beginning of last year very comfortably, but didn't play enough games, so he gets priced right down. And obviously, lower minute games with injury hurt him there for sure. Could be enough, could be annoying. It's Ricky Roulette. There's not a lot of great things, but 238k, it's pretty lovely to look at, to be honest with you, and helps you out in your side across the board a lot. Move to the halfback, guys, and we've got Aiden Caesar at 345. It's obviously fairly cheap there, and he has the dual with the 5/8 as well. You do have to go back to 2015 for a season where he would be worth it at this price, unfortunately. With the goal kicking, running the team and improving, the team improving, he could be definitely worth it. There's lots of ifs though, because they're not playing in round 1, so you'd be relying on your halfback or 5/8, which is fine. That's not a problem. But what the good thing is this week is he's been named to start in that Tigers trial with Jaden Sullivan, and we get to see exactly how that's going to look. And if he does look really, really solid, like he's defending well, you're getting them around the park and he's setting up a few tries, if he does that and is kicking goals, then I could understand why people would look to him. But 2015 is basically 9 years ago now, 8 to 9 years ago. He was scoring well in Supercoach, and then even his stats over in the Super League weren't great either. He wasn't averaging very high at all. So yeah, definitely something to note with Caesar. He's fairly cheap, but and running a team, but how far gone is he in his career? Is he on his last legs, or can we see a bit of a resurgence from him in Australia? Chanel Harris-Tavita, 238.9. So he's obviously really cheap, but he's averaged anywhere between 31 to 48 over his 4 seasons in a better team now, right? He could make sort of 100k for sure. Very, very good defensively. He's going to have options on that left side, as I said, with the quality of the team that they have now. Not sure he's clearly in the running for that round 1 spot. Like, you've got Luke Metcalf starting this week, and then you've got Tamati Martin on the extended bench or whatever it is for the Maldives there. So something to note with him. If he was there in round 1, I could see people going for him and banking so much cash. But again, you're probably going to want someone like Cleary at some point during the season. It's going to be very hard to trade out a 238k guy if he doesn't happen to make more than sort of 150, 200k. It can be pretty tough. So that's kind of the negative of going for these cheaper guys to start the season. It will take a while to get to a Nathan Cleary at some point through the season.
All right, let's finish with 4 5/8s, guys. This should be a fairly short video, this one, and podcast. So Kyle Flanagan there at 310.5k. The average is 30.4 for him. And what you're looking at with Kyle is the last 4 seasons, he's had a 38, a 37, a 59, and a 50 average, going in that order, basically. So all of those are 7 points and above value, with obviously plenty of upside at halfback for the Roosters, but we're not expecting anything like that. So I think you can expect 37 at a minimum with 80 minutes in any team, because he's had them last couple of years in the Dogs. He moves over to the Dragons, and is that enough for you at a 37? Unless he's kind of dragging this team around and has his hands on the ball a bit more than he did at the Bulldogs there. Really, last year he averaged 54 minutes. So if he can get that up to closer to obviously the 80, if he's starting at 6, then the 37 is a minimum, and that's 7 points of value with potentially a little bit of upside there, given his base stats are pretty solid. So something to note with Flanagan there, and I suppose it's between him and KO Weeks if you are going cheap in the 5/8 position right now. And him, KO at 273, playing in the 6th position in this trial. He's got the fullback dual, which doesn't help us too much, I don't believe anyway, but we're expecting an improvement from him, having trained the whole preseason at 6. If he does get that start, he could also be a flop. So he's not a must-have, even if he gets the spot for sure, with so many options at obviously 5/8 then fullback. And when I was making this sort of a week or so ago, we had Jaden Campbell in with a big shot of being there for round 1. It sounds like it could be more likely round 3. So I was kind of playing around with a Campbell in that 5/8 spot as well. So that's something to note. And the 40k or close to 40k that you do save going to Weeks over Flanagan is probably a big draw card. And you'd imagine that him playing at 6 obviously didn't go great last year. The one game he played there, he did make some good tackles, so the base was there. If he has grown as a player and he actually earns this 6 spot, you'd imagine that he's actually improved, because what he showed at Manly wasn't great, but they obviously have a lot more weapons than that demand the ball rather than he did. Even at fullback last year, he wasn't someone that was able to demand the ball, given the amount of quality that they had at that side and the dominant players like in DCE. Whereas at the Raiders, I think that if he does some great work, he could demand sort of 40, 35% of the ball in traffic, especially with guys like Hudson Young on his side, and there's a good chance he can put little grubbers through or hit Hudson Young short or go out to the left-hand side if it's a Seb Chris on that side as well. So they've definitely got some weapons, and he could do a good job, but there's obviously a lot of question marks, whereas you look at Kyle Flanagan and there's definitely less question marks, and he's got the runs on the board. So that's the big difference between those two. And the things you need to look at with those. And then the last two guys is Latu Fainu and also Lachlan Galvin. So Galvin's been named in their trial match, which is cool. And he's been talked up massively by Benji. These two, they're fighting for one of 4 spots. 4 people fighting for 1 spot, I should say. Wrote that wrong. And I had Fainu likely as 3rd in line when I wrote this, but now I think it's probably switched, and Galvin is likely 3rd in line for this one. And then Fainu in the 4th spot, just because he wasn't named at all. So unless there's some injury that I haven't heard of, then this is the way that it's going to be looking right now. But both 18 years old, born in 2005, which is absolutely incredible that these two are turning 19 this year. But both have plenty of talent, and it looks like Sullivan and Caesar will be getting the spot. But as we know, guys, with trials, injuries do come up in these things, and plenty changes for our Supercoach teams for sure. So do keep an eye out on that, and kind of you obviously need to work out where you can fit. You need to fit some money in the center wing somehow. It doesn't look like we're getting a lot of cash cows. So front row forward, center wing are 2 positions, and hooker are the 3 positions that I'm worried about. And then 5/8 what we do in that position as well. So the rest of it is so hard to sort of predict. But again, if one of these top guns in any positions drops down, then options will come up, and that might help our teams as well. So just keep all this in the back of your mind. With take it all with a grain of salt, just because we've got a couple of trials to come. Injuries, suspensions, all the things come out of these. So be aware of that. And I hope you guys enjoyed that one, and you're getting plenty out of these Supercoach videos. If you did and are enjoying these this year, it is growing the Supercoach content for myself. So big thank you for being here, and we'll catch you in the next couple of videos. We got 2 more cash cows before we get into watching all these trials, which is great.